From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson.
And I am the hardest, the baddest, the sexiest man on cable access TV, talking to you live. Normally, I'm live and taped at the same time when there's no disastrous things happening to me. But yes, all the women still love me and hate him. But that's besides the point.
See, how much longer are you going to keep this charade going?
The same way you keep yours.
I ain't got no charade going. What are you talking about? What am I starting? What am I starting over here? What are you talking about?
Starting already.
You're not answering the question. What am I talking about?
This is
what's
what I'm
this?
This.
What is this?
This.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This right
here. I have
here.
no idea what you're talking
right
about.
Here. You still have not matured yet.
No, you haven't matured yet because you still fancy yourself a ladies' man when you're not.
I'm always the ladies' man.
No, you've never been a ladies' man.
I've been the ladies' man. You just jealous, Jaime.
I ain't jealous of you.
You see, this is what I mean.
I ain't jealous of you.
See, if a
seriously,
normal person,
why would I be jealous of somebody who smells like malt liquor?
A normal person.
No, you ain't a normal person.
A normal person would
You're
let
just
that
somebody
slide.
who looks like someone that buys their clothes from the Salvation Army.
You said to me, tell me why this and that. And I'm telling you now. Instead of you just letting it slide, you don't let it slide. You have to hamp on it.
Because you are talking a lot of garbage.
Okay.
That's why your breath stinks so bad.
And that's why I get all the women and you don't. You have one, I get all.
You don't get anything except pain and aggravation from all the punches that you get in the face from every single woman that you harass.
The only pain and aggravation that I get is being here all the time, getting harassed by you.
And the only pain and aggravation that I get is from you crashing my show, knucklehead.
Oh, yeah, I don't crash it.
You crash my show every single time.
I am invited. I am on the list. I am a producer somehow.
Yeah, you're on the list, all right. You're on the S blank T list. That's what you're on.
And then I get here, and I get this. This is what I mean, ladies and gentlemen, but that's all right, folks.
Brother.
Let's go back to sports.
You just never learn. You never learn.
My name is Hector Bosa, and you know who he is, JJ himself. But you know what?
First of all, can we stop with this JJ thing? I've been never jealous of you. I was never jealous of you. I never ever will be jealous of you because I don't get jealous of somebody who smells like cheap booze.
Hey, women still like cheap booze.
No, they don't like cheap booze.
How do you know that?
Because
how do you know that? Do you know all the women in the world? No, you don't.
First of all, I don't have to know every woman in the world.
Can we start talking about sports?
I'm talking about the woman that I have now.
Isn't this a sports show?
Yes, it is.
Well,
and you're making it a mockery.
Sports show. Let's talk about sports.
If you stop making this a mockery, we will.
Sports. I've been trying. If you let me go on with my stick, then we would have gone to sports. But no, you have.
That's your problem. You always got to make it about stick.
You have to babble on.
No, you always got to babble on about yourself. Nobody likes a freaking egomaniac, which is exactly what you are. No, I ain't no egomaniac. I ain't no egomaniac.
We spent 5 minutes on me. What a lovely thing. Only he was the one that started.
Exactly. That's why you are egomaniac. He was the one that started, ladies and gentlemen. But ladies and gentlemen, let's go to sports now because you're killing me.
Baseball. I wish. Baseball in itself. Go see your text to see how many wrong things you send. But
none.
How many people send you texts? Because they send me hello. How do you split up with Jaime? But
you're such a little liar.
I'll show you the text later. You know what?
Show me nothing.
Okay, then you don't want to see the truth. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Because you lying.
Yeah, right. The truth shall set me free. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. With baseball itself, the All-Star was a great game, right?
It was better than last year. Let's put it that way. But because of the record number of home runs that were hit in the game, there were 13 home runs hit in this game.
Yeah, but at least it's not like baseball, like football or basketball, which the amount of runs or
the amount of points scored
points and all that. They don't play as hard as they do in baseball. In baseball, they actually try to play as hard as possible.
I totally disagree with
They
that.
try to play.
The guys in the NFL, they really care about going one up on the other conference.
No, not
they
really.
They want to establish some supremacy in their conference.
Really?
Yes,
that's how come the games are so damn high, because they don't play no damn defense.
Well, of course not. They're trying to have some kind of fun.
Well, again, then how can you say they take it well and then they're trying to have some fun? No, you can't have both. You have to play the foot game as if it was a regular game. You can have your fun in between, but you have to play like a serious game. They don't play like a serious game. The NBA doesn't play like
they play it seriously to me.
Well,
and if you ask a couple of NFL players, they'll tell you differently.
Yeah, and you ask some of the other NFL players, they'll tell you, "Oh, we just doing it for fun," because look at the scores. The scores in a real game, the majority of the time, is not that high. So how can you sit there and say, oh, yeah, blah, 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 blah. There aren't that many times, unless you're a bad football team, the scores get really high on both sides. So don't sit there and go, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. No, ridiculous. Secondly, in basketball, it's the same situation. People want to see
now those games are high scoring.
We
almost had a 200-point game in the last NBA All-Star game.
And we're going to see it eventually. People want to see fun in the NBA. People want to see dunks. But I would say to you that if they treated that game as a serious game, the way it's played, even when you're playing pickup basketball, people treat it as a serious game. You would get more fans watching the blasted thing than anything else. And do you want the NBA and football? We say, how can we improve the sport? Because by playing it more seriously, the NFL does not want to hurt themselves, especially in All-Star. They even say themselves, we don't go all out because we don't want to get hurt. So how serious can they be taking it if they don't want to get hurt and all that? No, ridiculous.
27-6, 26-13, 33-28, 15-13, 17-10, 23-20, 24-14, 14-13, 13-7, 37-27, 21-7, 16-13, 20-19, 45-3.
45-3.
22-14, 28-24, 10-6, 15-6, 34-3, 27-21, 23-21, 21-15, 23-20 in overtime.
Yeah.
17-3, 41-13, 20-13, 26-23 in overtime.
Are those average scores, though?
Those are the scores of each Pro Bowl that has been played since the merger.
But I'm asking you one thing. Under normal circumstances, watch the game, and the football players that tell you themselves, we're not playing hard. We're not playing hard. We don't want to get hurt. How come do you think if they take it so blasted seriously, since you want to get down and deep with this, okay, if they take it so blasted seriously, the people that are supposed to go there, they don't go there. Why? Because they don't want to get hurt. That's why. And they said it
don't go
themselves.
there because they've already been hurt beforehand, or they have other plans. Yes, they do.
Oh, yeah, like going on vacation. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Some of these guys do suffer injuries before the fact.
You're absolutely right. And some of them like to go on vacation. They've said it themselves.
And also they changed the rules. They put the Pro Bowl before the Super Bowl now, so the players from the participating teams have to pull out.
And exactly. They have to. And people don't want to see that. They want to see the people that are in the Super Bowl. That's another thing. And why did they do that? Because if they did it like they did it before, the players that used to play in the Super Bowl, they wouldn't let them play anyway. Or they didn't want to do it because they would say, oh, we got to conserve ourselves. Most of the times, if you see it, check to see how many of the people that were listed to play dropped out, bailed out.
There were plenty of players who dropped out.
Okay, so how serious can they take it?
But some of them have dropped out because of injuries, though.
Some of them take it, yeah. But the other ones that go, oh, I don't want to go because I want to spend time with my family. It's one more blasted game to help play it like a real game. They don't play it like a real game. Those scores right there, play it like a real game. People want to see hard-hitting, smash-mouth football. They don't want to see delicate like you. Play flag football. I'd rather see them, if they don't want to get hurt that badly, play flag football.
There are guys who suffer torn ACLs in flag football games.
Not in that game.
There have been guys who suffered torn ACLs in flag football. Flag football is pretty serious as well.
I'm talking about not in the All-Star football game. No, not there. Not there.
But
not exactly
in other flag football games, they do suffer torn ACLs.
I'm not talking about flag football. I'm talking about real football now. No, I'm not saying that flag football is not real football. The helmet and shoulder pads and whatever padding you have. I'm talking about that. Listen to them in interviews. The people that are supposed to be there don't show up. In baseball, the majority of the time, the people that get picked normally go.
Yeah, except for when there's an injury.
Exactly. And they play harder to me than football. And basketball's a joke. And football is another one. They'll tell you, I'm not going. Plain as hell. Okay. Forget the people that have done.
We can't
injuries.
speak for the guys that
They've
decide
said
not to go.
Some of the people have said it themselves. But you know what? Baseball has come and gone, and the All-Star game was good enough because it had its moments.
Yeah, it was overall it was a dramatic game, especially with the way that it went in extra innings, and we mentioned before the record number of home runs that were hit. And unfortunately, Jacob deGrom wound up giving up a home run. Luis Severino actually pitched one scoreless inning for the Yankees, and Aaron Judge wound up hitting one of the 13 home runs that was hit in this game for the American League, and that's 13 home runs on both sides. And as it turns out, the final score was 8-6. And one of the guys from the Mariners wound up being named the game's most valuable player. By the way, getting back to this Pro Bowl thing, you really want to make the Pro Bowl a more highly rated event. I saw this story on NFL Films recently. Do you know that there is a league where they play football on unicycles?
I could believe it.
There's a league, I think it's in either Texas or somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, where they play football. It's an organized league, football on unicycles.
I believe it.
And there have been guys who've suffered cuts and scrapes in their knees, broken collarbones, broken arms, and they play it in a parking lot, and they'll either they have the players wear flags, and you can either tackle the guy or take the flag away from them.
There was an article or TV show that I seen. They're trying to legitimize bare knuckle fighting.
Like in the old days.
And they're trying to make it into a league now, and they're trying to bring it on TV. You'll probably see that soon too.
Like Fight Club.
Because they bastardized the UFC by putting weight limits instead of going, my martial arts is better than your martial arts. Let's do it. And you know how that became. To legitimize it, they had to put weight classes because the commission didn't want to see a 300-pound versus a 180-pound guy or anything of that nature. Mm-hmm. They wanted to supposedly legitimize the sport. To me, the sport was legitimate already because you had people that actually, again, you had to prove yourself. that my martial art was better than your martial arts. Not this, oh, well, not like boxing. If you're 1 pound over, they have a 145-pound weight class, and let's say they have a 146-pound weight class. Come on, that's ridiculous.
Yep.
You know, boxing was great. The featherweights are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The featherweights are fantastic, by the way. And there's not too many heavyweights out there. They don't promote the heavyweights anymore. And if they do, it's very seldom.
Yeah.
So boxing has become poorly. UFC has dropped down. Most wrestlers are trying to go to relive their youth by going to the UFC, because I'm sure that if the UFC was in their time, at that time, most wrestlers would have been out. I would have seen Mark Calloway, The Undertaker. He said he probably would have done UFC. I'm telling you, most fighters would have gone to the UFC first before I think they would have became wrestlers. But most football players say they would become wrestlers first before they become football players.
Well, there actually have been a few more football players, 2 more that I know of, that are making their mark in Global Impact Wrestling, the former TNA.
Yeah, that's
one of whom is the Moose, and the other is, of all people, D'Angelo Williams.
Well, he started in ROH, Moose.
Mm-hmm.
Moose has been in the business for a long time now. And D'Angelo Williams, did anybody sign him yet?
He made one appearance. Well, you mean in the NFL?
NFL, yeah.
He got released by the Steelers. My guess is that he's retired now.
And he never claimed to be retired. I think he still wants to play. No, just nobody.
In all likelihood.
What is anything wrong with him?
No, he's 100% healthy. Because if he wasn't, he would not have competed.
What position is he?
He's a running back.
He's a running.
And he had a very good career as a running back. 11 years with the Panthers and the Steelers.
Nobody wants to take a chance on him.
Nope.
Because his price is too high?
Probably.
Oh, all right. Oh, that makes a class. In baseball, now that the All-Star game's passed and you've had significant trades, Machado going to the LA Dodgers.
For 3 prospects, this will probably put the Dodgers in the driver's seat to really not just take the West, but to repeat as National League champions now. Although I would not gloss over the Chicago Cubs or the Braves or the Phillies right now. I wouldn't even pass on the Milwaukee Brewers either. The Brewers are trying to make some moves of their own. So not only did Machado get moved, unfortunately, Jody's Familia got traded by the Mets to Oakland, also for some prospects.
Oh, wow.
And he's not even going to be the closer in Oakland either. He's just going to be the setup man. But it strengthens Oakland's bullpen a lot more.
Do they have a shot at making the playoffs?
Quite possibly. They're doing it a lot more with pitching this year.
So, are you surprised that the Mets made that trade, considering if they would have held him and they would have waited until next year? And
he's a free agent, too.
They would have been able to sign him, don't you think?
Oh, of course. And Familia was pretty emotional in his press conference about the 6.5 years that he pitched for the Mets. He really loved his time here.
I look at it like this. If he wants to go back to the Mets, he can go back to the Mets, because since his contract ends next year, or this year, I'm sorry.
Right.
He can go back. But I'm sure he's not going to go back, because the owners of that team are just as bad as James Dolan, according to some people.
Oh, brother.
Because they don't want to open up the bank, and when they do open up the bank, they get a Bobby Bonilla out of it.
Well, the only difference is, whereas James Dolan is willing to spend money, the Wilpons are not willing to spend money. And if they do, it is on a guy like a Bobby Bonilla or an Eddie Murray or Jason Bay or anyone who will turn into an eternal flop for about a year or two.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the case with them. Even Cespedes, I mean, as much as he's done well, there's a guy that has to have surgery on his heels.
Yeah, because apparently he's got some kind of calcification in both of his heels.
Exactly.
And from what I understand, if he does have this surgery, it's going to be 8 to 10 months he's going to be out, or maybe even longer.
Well, put it this way. If he goes out now, you won't see him until next year.
August of 2019, maybe?
Yeah, you won't see him until probably the beginning of the season or...
So what does he do? Does he try and tough it out for the last 2 months of the year, or does he just get the surgery immediately?
Get it immediately. That way you can come back.
Because calcification in both heels sounds like a really serious thing.
If you're going to do any surgery, and there's a chance... Now, if there's a chance that there's going to be well, all surgeries have complications. But if you prolong it, and let's say you wait until after baseball, then by the time you come back next year, you'll probably be in the middle coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So you might as well leave now, let the Mets get whatever prospects up, do it now. That way next year you come back earlier if nothing happens.
Yeah.
If nothing happens that could go wrong, that can go wrong, do the surgery now, get it over with. Pray to God that nothing happens, and you'll come back healthy next year.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, that's all that happened. But has there been any other trades that you know of?
Aside from Cespedes, aside from Familia and Manny Machado, let me see if we can dig into our list of things that have gone on.
Now, for those Yankee fans out there, the Yankees have not made a trade yet, and you can't blame them.
And they want pitching.
Yeah, but all the pitchers that they want, like J. Happ and all them other guys, they're flopping like crazy. Matt Harvey is finally coming down to earth now.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the pitchers that, again, the Yankees wanted, they're either hurt or they're flopping.
Yeah.
So what do? Do you rely on your farm system? Or those kids are supposed to be real great. You might as well try them out and then see what you have.
And for the record, aside from Machado and Familia, those are the only guys that we've seen so far. The only, quote-unquote, big names that have been moved. Right now, there are other names such as Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, and I'm also hearing Zach Wheeler might be on the trading block as well. The Mets, if they had their druthers, would rather trade Zach Wheeler first.
That doesn't make any sense because they have him until next year.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that kills me. If you have a guy that's doing well and that next year...
That's another thing. Jacob deGrom has been the Mets' best pitcher this year, and he's gotten, 10 no decisions this year because the bullpen has been so atrocious?
Think of it this way. Next year, if everybody comes back, you have a decent team.
Yep.
You have good pitching, plus you have decent hitting coming back next year if everything works well for you. Because the Mets have been disastrous physically.
Yeah.
They've been nothing but...
Todd Frazier's been out. Jay Bruce has been out. Cespedes has been out. Noah Syndergaard has also been in and out of the starting rotation because he's been hurt. And he just recently got back from the disabled list. Now he's back on the disabled list again because of a mysterious mouth and hand and finger infection that he suffered when he was doing a camp during the All-Star week. This is what it's like to be a Met fan right now.
And for those people that are Yankee fans out there and that you're thinking that the Yankees have something in mind, do you really think that the Yankees need that extra pitcher? Why don't you give the young guys a try? That's what most fans are saying.
After Severino and Sabathia and Tanaka and Sonny Gray and the other young man that they have, just recently they had Domingo Germán, but they sent him back to the minor leagues. They sent him down, and they won't give Sheffield a try for some reason. They just don't feel he's ready.
You know what? If you have that much hope on him, then you might as well give him a shot. Give him 1 or 2 games at least. Let him see what it's like to play in the leagues again, and then bring him down.
I do know that they brought up Domingo Acevedo from the minor leagues.
Yeah.
And
they brought up another guy, too.
Yep. Domingo Acevedo, just as quickly as he wound up being brought up here, they wound up sending him back again.
Right. He pitched 1 game, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they brought up another pitcher, which I cannot recall at the moment.
So, aside from the quartet that I mentioned, my guess is that the Yankees do want that 5th starter in the worst way possible. I've heard the name Jay Happ from the Blue Jays, but
again,
the Yankees are not particularly thrilled with what the Blue Jays are asking for, and the Blue Jays are asking for a lot, which could mean Justice Sheffield, which could also mean their other pitching prospect, Chance Adams, and maybe even Domingo Acevedo as well.
Here's the thing. If they, let's say, want to trade with the Mets are asking for a boatload. Everybody now is holding on because they know that the major players are going to give up a boatload. The Yankees are not willing to give up the boatload. Now, you're a GM right now. Do you give up the boatload?
No.
Or if it was, let's say, Thor himself from the Mets.
You mean if the Mets made Thor available in a trade with the Yankees?
Or even the other guy.
Or Jacob DeGrom?
DeGrom, who's younger.
Yeah, and who's more healthy as well.
And he's got more years in his contract.
And who's been so much more consistent this year.
Exactly.
His ERA is barely 1 3/4.
So that's what I'm saying. Do you give up Sheffield, Adams? Because that's what the Mets are going to ask for. Those guys are going to be in it. The guy that they sent down. Do you give up all those 3 or 4 players just to get him? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't do it either.
Maybe 1 and some AA and AAA. Or would you give up 2 of those guys and then a AA and a AAA player?
I would try and convince them to pick a lower level prospect.
Well, they're not. If they're smart, they're not. You got to give in order to take.
I just would not do it.
You can't.
Justice Sheffield is a special kind of pitcher that comes around once in a lifetime, and I'm not really sure if the Yankees are keen on giving up on him.
Then you know what? Then don't trade nothing. Try the young guys. If you don't make the World Series this year, you know what? You know you have a good team next year. Everybody's still intact. They're young enough to play 4 or 5 years more. So, and then you take a chance. Now, the only person that you're not going to have next year is probably Tanaka and CC Sabathia. Do you sign CC Sabathia next year?
Tanaka is under contract for 1 more year after this.
Yeah, but
Sabathia says he definitely wants to pitch next year.
That's if he doesn't want to retire, because every year Tanaka always tends to want to retire.
Well, he said that if they win the World Series this year that he would retire, but now he's had a change of tune. I think he wants to pitch next year.
Now, CC Sabathia, do you bring him back?
At least for 1 more year. Because that could be all that he has left in him.
He's 38 years old. He'll be 39 years old? Yeah.
He's 39. He'll turn 38 soon.
Yeah, so he'll be 39 next year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you bring back a 39-year-old? Now, to me, age is not that much. If you can throw, you can throw. If you're winning this year, you're going to win next year. Plain and simple. If you're winning this year, you take a chance on him next year. Because look at Bartolo Colon. Nobody wanted Bartolo Colon. He did pretty well.
It's not like he's been a complete wreck this year.
He's
bust. Pitched well.
He's not a bust, but he's not great either. But at least he's consistent.
Yeah.
You know, he'll give you what you need. Plain and simple English. That's all that matters. You know, Boston seems like they're never going to lose, even though when they lose, the Yankees lose.
Yeah.
The Yankees are 5 back. Everybody else in that division is not doing well at all.
Yeah.
And
right now,
I think the Marlins fired their coach, I think. Did the Marlins fire their coach? I think.
I know that there was a firing in the majors recently. I know Mike Matheny got fired by the Cardinals. That was one guy that got fired.
But just now there was I think the Marlins or one of those Florida teams fired their coach as well. So you got two teams that have fired their coaches. Mind you, it's not the coach's fault. Sometimes it's the players that are out there that you have. Because you would think that Derek Jeter is building with what happened to him with the Yankees. He should have picked up something.
Yeah.
Did he pick up anything? I don't know.
From the Yankees? Aside from Starlin Castro?
Yeah. Has he
Prospects.
done well? Has he done well?
Starlin Castro? Let's find out right now.
Because that's another thing, too. You know, just because you're a great player, as they like to say about Derek Jeter, that doesn't mean that you transition into a good GM or a good manager.
He's had a solid season. 290 average, 7 homers and 37 RBIs. The power isn't there, but then again, it's hard to hit home runs in Marlins Park because the ball just doesn't carry in there, which is interesting. Which is interesting considering Miami is one of the more humid cities in the country.
True.
Maybe if they opened the roof a little bit more, and also maybe if the weather cooperated in South Florida a little bit more, because around this time they're notorious for getting thunderstorms.
Hurricane season.
Yeah, and it's also hurricane season. But Starlin Castro has had a very, very good season for them.
You know, so yeah, I mean, when Boston seems like they don't want to lose, and when they do lose, the Yankees lose.
Boston's dynamite. Let's face facts. They have been unhittable for the majority of the season. Mookie Betts is outstanding. Jackie Bradley Jr. is fantastic. Their first baseman, J.D. Martinez, has also been spectacular for them. There's aside from their second baseman, Dustin Pedroia, being in and out of the lineup because he's been hurt, Boston has been just unbeatable at times this year.
You know, and that's another thing, too, where the Yankees have 10 games with them. That's where you catch up, because when they play Baltimore, you would think that they're going to have to lose eventually. Even as bad as the teams are with Baltimore and the Blue Jays, you know, those teams there eventually will win 1 or 2 games.
And somehow the Yankees have been a 500 team against the Orioles this year.
Hey, you know what?
These things happen.
Things happen, and they get pumped up for those games, too. It's like, okay, us against you. Here we go. Let's do this. You know, let's just do it, and we got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Now, Buck Showalter must be going crazy.
Oh, obviously, he's not happy with the way the season's going. The Orioles are the worst team in the league right now.
So, do you think they'll fire Buck Showalter? Do you think, because Buck Showalter, again, how long has he been in the team?
He's had 7.5 years with the Orioles alone.
7.5? That's 7.5. Unless they get young guys every year or every 2 years, Buck Showalter has a tendency, unless he's changed, has a tendency to his tune always gets dry at the last minute.
Yeah.
They start getting sick of him.
Well, I think he got a raw deal when the Yankees fired him all those years ago, but
some of the Yankee players at that time were complaining about him because he was so damn strict and this and that, the other thing. And his tune, there are coaches that you consider there and say, okay, he's fine to play with. He can be there for years.
Yeah.
And then there are coaches that you have to change every 3 years or 4 because his tune, the older players don't want to hear it anymore. They've heard it 2 years already, and they think they don't have to hear it anymore.
And he had some pretty short shelf lives with the Diamondbacks and the Rangers, which were the 3 other organizations where he managed.
Exactly. And if you notice, he only lasted 3 years with them. 3 years.
And this is the longest that he's gone managing someplace.
So, and
I mean, overall, he's done a really good job, but this year he's been victimized by some really, really shoddy pitching.
So it's the players and not him.
It's definitely the players.
Okay, that's all I got to know. But that's all. But, in the rest of the league.
Well, we almost forgot to mention that the Subway Series was over the weekend. It got cut short again because of the rain.
Yeah.
So yesterday's game is going to be made up next month, August 13th to be exact. And the other two games, the Yankees and the Mets wound up splitting those, and they were pretty reasonable games. Game 2 was pretty wild, especially when you consider that Asdrubal Cabrera wound up getting thrown out of the game, arguing balls and strikes. But you saw the replay; he wound up going around on a check swing.
Here's something that you don't see often too. Before, the umpires used to be National League umpires and American League umpires.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's none of that anymore.
Yeah. Now they have the umpires basically
switching
from one league to another.
But that's because they're saving money.
Mm-hmm.
They're saving money by doing that. It's all, for some reason, it all boils down to money, and that's sickening.
And you notice a lot of the umpires that they're using now are a little bit more slim than in years past.
Yeah, they're bulky. They're not like some of those.
Mm-hmm. It's not like what it was years ago when they not only had a blazer that they had to wear, but they also had the chest protector.
Oh, that big chest protector, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That looked like a pillow.
Yeah.
Or a mattress.
I always wondered what that was back in the day.
It was styrofoam. It was just styrofoam about this thick. That's all it was. I mean, it had to be that because
yet the umpiring has been just as scrutinized in this era as it was back in the day.
Well, of course it's going to be because they're human beings. They're human beings. Everybody's going to make mistakes, and everybody got their favorite team. It's like when they had what's his name? He played for the Boston. He played for the Yankees at third place. What was that guy's name?
You mean Wade Boggs?
Wade Boggs. They would ask him, was that a ball or is that a strike? Because he was that good. Hey, you're the umpire, for God's sakes.
Wow.
They would give him the benefit of the doubt because he was that good of a player.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. Just like in every sport that you see.
And he was also that skilled of a hitter, too.
Exactly. Rod Carew was one of the best hitters I've seen.
Yeah.
But, some say Mantle.
Mickey was the best slugger.
Yeah. Fast, too.
Yeah.
That gun was fast.
Mm-hmm.
But DiMaggio, Ruth, that's a guy that I think would have been a good manager.
Babe Ruth?
Yeah. I think he would have been a good manager.
If he were taken a little bit more seriously by management, then he definitely would have been a really good manager.
They screwed him over.
Yeah.
They screwed him over. But he didn't make a case for himself either. But,
with his off-the-field activities.
Yeah, but you know what? It wasn't. Imagine if you had media back then, like the way it is now. They can't pull none of that crap.
Nope.
But anyway, in basketball, Kawhi Leonard finally got traded.
Kawhi Leonard got traded to Toronto. Wasn't happy about it at first. DeMar DeRozan, for who he was traded for, was really unhappy because he thought that Raptors management lied to him.
Yes. And, of course, there's always that, oh, wait a minute now. We never said we was not going to. Of course, management always has to cover their ass. But you never know. Sometimes words could get screwed up. It's like saying when they say, oh, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. My crap.
It's either they do or they don't.
But here,
there's no in between.
There's always a situation because some person could be in love with you and not be in love with you, but they love you as a friend and so forth. But
I'll tell you what.
The thing is,
Toronto. Toronto was the one place that DeMar DeRozan really loved to play in.
He wanted to retire there.
Yeah.
He wasn't complaining.
Where you see a lot of guys not too thrilled about going to Toronto, DeMar DeRozan spent a decade there And yes, he did want to retire a Raptor. He was the only NBA player that declared his affection for that city. He was more than heartbroken. He was fuming about being traded to the Spurs.
Do you think that with Jimmy Butler complaining about him not wanting to be there,
and he already rejected a contract extension,
do you think that if the Knicks, I'll throw it out there to you, if the Knicks gave up Courtney Lee, Thomas, since Butler so-called wants to play for the New York Knicks,
supposedly.
So that's what I said, so-called. He supposedly wants to play for the New York Knicks. I'm sure you would give up Lee, Thomas. Would you give up your draft pick?
Depends on which draft pick you're talking about. A future draft pick or the draft pick that they just
next year
made?
Next year.
The Knicks have been burned so many times by giving up draft picks and the stuff that they got in return. But let me tell you, I would send Courtney Lee and Lance Thomas on the first plane out of here to Minneapolis just to get Jimmy Butler. But is Jimmy Butler going to complain about the young players that the Knicks have? Like he complained about Karl Anthony Towns not busting it on defense?
Well, the Knicks have actually...
You know how you do know how some veterans are when it comes to younger players, right?
Yes.
And we also know how some coaches are when it comes to younger players.
But you got our fantastic coach that hasn't coached the game yet, but they're already putting him with a crown on his head, and hasn't done anything.
Let's not get crazy here, please.
But he's supposedly a fantastic coach. Everybody endorses him and so on, except for Marcus Gasol. But next year,
that's another thing. Even Marcus Gasol admitted that he might have gone a bit overboard with the feud that he got into with Fizdale.
So now, next year, you never know. But if it's possible, what do you give up for Butler?
The T-Wolves are probably going to want some young players in return.
They're going to want Robertson, Frank Nikita.
I'll tell you what.
Will they take young Kim Noah too?
From your mouth to God's ears.
You know what? And I actually read a story that Joakim could actually help the team.
Yeah, right.
He could.
I
look at it like this. You have him under contract. Let's see what he can do. If he doesn't do well, you let him go. Plain and simple.
I'll tell you what. If the T-Wolves were approached about any kind of deal regarding Jimmy Butler, they are going to want that other squad to take back Andrew Wiggins and his 5-year contract worth $137 million.
Well,
and that is a salary cap murderer.
And the Knicks are not going to do that.
If they're smart, they will not do that.
They keep on saying that. Look at all the people that they're signing for 1 year because they're trying to make salary cap for 2019. They're not playing for 20. They're going to play hard. But you're going to see if this guy is as good as he says he is. Give the young guys a really good shot at the young guys coming up. And also, do they have a shot at making the playoffs?
No.
You don't know because you don't know what can happen in the league. You don't know who may get hurt. The Eastern Division is not that strong. There's only two teams that are automatic, and everybody else.
The Celtics and the Sixers may be going against each other for supremacy, but you can't dismiss the other squads though. Indiana had a surprisingly good season last year. Post Paul George, Victor Oladipo was an all-star last year.
Again,
now that Toronto has Kawhi Leonard, they're going to be a hell of a lot better defensively on the front line.
Again, that's all of a throw-up though, because you're not sure that's going to happen. That's the whole point. You're sure that the Celtics are going to make. You're sure that the Sixers are going. You're sure. You're already penciling him in already.
And keep in mind, Kawhi Leonard
is playing for a contract next year as well.
Is going to be playing for a new contract next year. And granted, he's going to want to raise his level of play. And as for the Celtics, Gordon Hayward basically missed a whole season last year because of a broken kneecap. He is pretty much working his tail off to try and get better for training camp. There's also Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving missed 22 games last year and the playoffs. Kyrie Irving is going to want to really prove himself to be a 75 to 80 game season and be worthy of that max contract that he thinks he's worthy of.
He supposedly deserves of anyway, but and the Brooklyn Nets. Yeah, them guys are doing real pretty good.
You know, for all of the stuff that the Knicks have been putting themselves in the papers for, the Brooklyn Nets have had a very busy summer.
Especially considering that they had no pick. This was the year they had actually 2 picks.
Yeah.
Because of that disastrous.
Yeah, and this is the last time that they're going to have to pay the price for that ridiculous Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce trade. They suffered after this trade for 5 years straight, 6 years straight. Now they don't have to put up with all of that misery anymore. And for all of the headlines that the Knicks got, what did the Nets do? Acquired Kenneth Faried. Also acquired Jared Dudley to be a possible stretch 3 or 4. And then there were the subtle moves that they made, signing Shabazz Napier to help out in the backcourt, signing Ed Davis, who's been a rather serviceable guy for all of the teams that he's played for in the past. And, of course, he's a North Carolina guy, so naturally, these North Carolina guys are going to be productive players some way, somehow. They also re-signed Joe Harris, and those 2 draft picks that they had, both were spent on European kids, both of whom could possibly be stretch 4 or maybe even stretch 5 guys for the Nets.
Yeah, when they got rid of Jeremy Lin.
Yep, traded Jeremy Lin and his huge contract load. And they also made a really, really, really smart trade with the Charlotte Hornets, getting rid of Timofey Mozgov's contract and getting back Dwight Howard, stretching him out and letting him sign with the Wizards.
Yeah. You know what's funny? They have a big cap next year.
Yes, they do.
As well. But with the Nets, do you, as a player, do they have the pieces that can take you all the way?
You mean right now?
With the players that they have now, because I don't think they have too many picks next year. I think they have about 2 picks next year. With the team that they have now, if 2019 is supposed to be the big year, they have a big salary cap next year.
Mm-hmm.
Can they attract these big players?
Let's face facts. They're not getting Kevin Durant. That's out of the question. He's not making his way over here to be a Net or a Knick.
Can it possibly? Can you may get Jimmy Butler in there? Can you may get a Kyrie Irving? Can you may get Kyrie? Well, Kyrie wants to go with the Lakers supposedly, but I'm just going.
Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi, yeah.
Yeah, Kawhi Leonard only wants to be a Laker. So, although his tune has kind of changed a little bit after seeing that Instagram post of him and his 2 new bosses in Toronto.
Well, yeah, of course.
Whereas his 2 bosses had grins from ear to ear, Kawhi Leonard was basically like smirking. He just had a smirk on his face.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be there.
Well, here's the thing. Like I said, do the Nets have any attraction for any of those players to come?
Jimmy Butler, maybe. I think he might give them at least a bit of an interview.
But can they sign him? Can they sign any of the big guys?
Not a Kevin Durant.
Not
out of the question.
Even with the cap that they have now.
Even with the cap that they have now, there's no chance in hell they get a superstar player over here.
If they're just going for the money, then the Nets is the place to go. If they're just going for money. If they're just going for money. Now, the Nets don't have a bad team.
it's not awful. I mean, they've got some really, really decent young players, specifically in their backcourt. Their backcourt is young and really, really promising. Their problem is they don't have a stretch 4 or 5. And when I say stretch 4 or 5, I mean a power forward or a center who can open up the game with the three-point shot and draw a double team either down low or maybe out to the perimeter.
Well, hopefully they'll get
They're trying to groom Jarrett Allen into being that kind of a stretch 4 or 5 player. He's probably the most intriguing player that the Nets have right now, Jarrett Allen. They wound up drafting him last year out of Texas. The numbers didn't show that much, but if you see the way he plays, Jarrett Allen is a really, really good post player.
Who's got a better team, the Knicks or the Nets, on paper?
If you go by on paper, I think the Nets have better youth, but the Knicks probably have a slightly more talent.
So who's got the edge?
I think the Knicks have more of an edge on talent alone.
Really?
Yeah, I think the Nets have more of an edge on talent alone. And when you think about it, if you saw them going head to head right now, if it weren't for Kristaps Porzingis' injury, I think that the Knicks would have a towering edge over the Nets on the front line and probably in coaching right now. Whereas the Knicks are in a little bit more of a win-now mentality. The Nets are looking strictly at developing their kids.
The Knicks are not in a win mentality. They're trying to win with what they have, but next year, remember, most of the players that they have on the contract, they'll have 1 year left. So next year, they're dumping salary cap too to see if they can attract a major player themselves. So there's a lot of, if you look at their contracts, they're trying to get rid of Courtney Lee and Thomas and Joakim Noah.
Who no one's interested in.
But at this point in time, the majority of the players that they have either options or they're gone next year.
Yeah.
Unless, they got rid of Troy Williams. And people were saying that he was going to make the team next year, but because of Robinson being so good, they had to they had 16 players. They had 14 players under contract?
Yep.
So they had to get rid of one.
And by the way, the guy that spent last season with the Knicks, Michael Beasley, is joining LeBron on the Lakers.
That's going to be a good team next year with the Lakers. That's another thing. Because Carmelo Anthony went to the Rockets. So
is it official?
Yes. With Carmelo going...
Because I know he got traded to Atlanta, and he was supposed to have been bought out so he could go to the Rockets.
So with that in mind, let's say he does go to the Rockets. Do the Lakers, being that strong of a team, since the Western Division has a stronger teams, do the Lakers have a chance of winning?
Oh, they definitely have the chance of winning because they have the second best player in the game right now.
But does that one player beat Curry? Cousins?
They can, but
you got all them play, and you got the Rockets too, who aren't shabby. They're actually very good themselves.
The Rockets made the Western Conference Finals last year.
And the Clippers are going to be a hell of a team this year. The Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban's team. Yeah, they're going to be a hell of a team this year as well. I mean, the majority of those
they're
teams,
definitely going to be more deep on the front line, though.
They have improved. The Western Division has done more improving than the Eastern Division. The Western Division is going to be I know LeBron wanted to go to Lakers because he's got 3 houses and has his company there and so on. But you know what? That's a tough call to make because the Lakers have a good team. Do they have a great team?
No, not even close.
Will LeBron be able to go and say, hey, Kyrie, come here. Hey, Butler, come with me. Hey, guys, come with me and play.
Kyrie Irving wants nothing to do with working with LeBron anymore.
I'm talking about Butler, Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler, maybe.
Hey, Jimmy
because
Butler,
I know for a fact Jimmy
him.
Butler has a house in L.A. too.
So, I'm sure he's going to bring all the players, but they're older players now. You have a young team. Mm-hmm. Do you keep the young team, or do you try to win now and then get rid of those young players?
They're going to try and win with this crop of young players that they have. And they got a lot of good young guys. That's one thing that escapes a lot of the critics when it comes to LeBron's move to L.A. The Lakers have so many good young players that he could probably groom them into being potential superstars. I mean, of course, there's Lonzo Ball. Then there's Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma.
LeVar Ball, but remember,
they also drafted Moritz Wagner, too, and they also drafted Slava Mihailuk from the University of Kansas.
Who's that?
Slava Mihailuk.
Slava Mihailuk. So you got Kyle Kuzma and Slava.
Kyle Kuzma.
Kyle Kuzma and Slava Mihailuk. Good God, say that 3 times fast.
And also, there's the side deals that they wound up making. They wound up getting JaVale McGee from the Lakers. They wound up getting Michael Beasley from the Knicks as well. And they also brought back Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
And also, what's that guy's name? Ronaldo. What's that guy's name? He used to play with the Celtics.
Also, Rajon Rondo.
Rajon Rondo. There's the guy I'm talking about. Good God Almighty. This drinking got to stop. It's killing my memory build, but that's okay. But you know what? But like I said, even though they have a young crop of kids, they still, probably in 3 years, 2 or 3 years, they may be able to overtake the Golden State Warriors, the Rockets, and some of those other teams. Because right now, you've got 4 teams automatic. You've got about...
And guess who else the Lakers got? Lance Stevenson.
Yeah.
He of the blowing in LeBron's ear in the playoffs many years ago.
Yeah, that was funny. Because it got to LeBron, too, and that was hilarious. But, again, here's the thing. You're going to be talking about the Lakers a lot this year because of LeBron being there. And also, they're trying to make salary cap as well. So they're going to try to get a Kawhi Leonard or Lord knows whoever wants to play for that team. But again, do you sacrifice the young dudes to get some of these older players to win now, and then 2 or 3 years down the line, you have to rebuild all over again, or do you just rebuild now and then go?
They're going to try and win with these guys this year. And if it doesn't work, if there's a trade out there that's going to benefit them, they will sacrifice at least 1 or 2 of these young kids. And I'll tell you what, those Lakers versus Warriors games are going to be must-see TV.
And the Rockets, too, and the Dallas Mavericks.
Any game that the Lakers play this year against any opponent is going to be must-see TV now.
Yeah, that's going to be something. And don't forget the World Cup was won this year.
By France.
By France. So, vive la France, even though some people claim, you know what, they had too many players from other teams. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen?
It is what it is.
It is what it is, but you can't do nothing.
They do that in the Olympics all the time.
Let me ask you something. Who's got the best trading system?
The best trading system?
Yeah, who do you think's got the best trading system?
In what sport?
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'll see you next Monday. This is the hottest, baddest, sexiest man on Cable Access TV. Next to JJ himself, Jealous Jaime. But I'll let him introduce himself. So you know what? If you want to be on my show, go to HomeInvadersRiotShow.com or on the HomeInvaders@yahoo.com. So I'll talk to you later. Stay well. And you, sir?
Thanks to Kenny Graham on the other side of the glass. Good night, everyone.
Peace.